All right, students, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the tax multiplier and the government spending multiplier. All right, first thing we need to talk about is the difference between discretionary fiscal policy and non-discretionary fiscal policy. Discretionary fiscal policy is when Congress creates new legislation in order to change aggregate demand through government spending or taxes. So they're actually writing new laws here. Problems with this is that it's going to take some time and there's time lags involved with it. So remember, spending and tax bills have to originate in the House and then they have to be passed by the House. So first they're going to argue over what the spending or taxing bills are going to be. There's 435 members, so it's going to take a while. They have to come to an agreement. And then they have to pass that bill and send it over to the Senate, where the Senate has to agree on it too, or change it, send it back to the House, who then has to agree on it again. And then it has to go up to the president and be signed or vetoed and sent back to either be changed to the president's liking or get a veto-proof majority. So suffice to say, it takes time for discretionary fiscal policy to go into effect. By the time you get it going, you might actually have already come out of the recession or inflationary gap. Non-discretionary fiscal policy is stuff that's been written to law already. It's been written to law in the past. This is permanent spending and tax laws that are designed to work counter-cyclically to stabilize the economy. So examples of automatic stabilizers are going to be unemployment benefits and just the fact that we have a progressive tax system where the more money you make, the higher percentage your income gets taxed. So two ways that works. With unemployment benefits, it works counter-cyclically. We go into a recession, unemployment benefits are going to go up as people lose their jobs and they qualify for the unemployment benefits. If we go into an expansionary period, unemployment benefits are going to fall as more people have a job and less people qualify for the unemployment benefits. Taxes are going to work the same way. If we go into a recession, lower income with fewer people working is going to lead to fewer income taxes being taken out. People aren't going to get taxed as much when they're not making as much money. And then inflationary period, when we get into an inflationary period and prices are going high and people are spending more and more money, the multiplier effect shows how spending is magnified in the economy. Let's say that Mercedes spends $100 at me, Mr. Fritz's ice cream shop. No, coffee shop. I'm sorry. Mercedes spending $100 at my coffee shop. I now have $100 to spend. I decide out of that $100, I'm going to spend $90 at Robin's ice cream store. I know that's a lot of ice cream, but I like ice cream. She now has $90. She's going to spend $81 at Ivan's sandwich shop. He now has $81, and he's going to spend $73.90 at Jabari's grocery store. And it just keeps going. So Mercedes' initial spending turns into my spending, turns into these other people's spending. And so her spending $100 ended up adding, 190 plus 81 plus 73, upwards of $200 to the GDP. So a couple things we need to talk about first. The MPC, aka the marginal propensity to consume. This is how much people are going to be spending out of each dollar that they earn. So if there's a change in income, they're going to spend a portion of it, they're going to save a portion of it. This is the portion that they're spending. Out of each dollar earned, part can be saved and part can be spent. So your MPC is going to be equal to the change in consumption divided by the change in income. It's always expressed as a decimal because what we're looking at is the marginal propensity to consume. So every dollar you earn, what percentage of it is being spent? And then the other percentage of that is going to be being saved. And that's what the MPS is, the marginal propensity to save. The MPS is going to be equal to the change in savings divided by the change in income. So again, it's going to be a decimal. Out of every dollar you get, you're going to spend part of it and save part of it. So let's keep looking. All right, MPC is going to be equal to 1 minus the MPS, and the marginal propensity to save is going to be 1 minus the marginal propensity to consume. So think about it like this. If MPS is 0.2, people are saving 20% of every dollar they earn. That means the MPC has to be 0.8. They're spending 80% of every dollar they earn. Because if you save part of your money, the only other thing you could do with it is spend it. MPS and MPC must equal 1 because out of every dollar that people earn, they're going to spend part of it and save part of it. All right, and now because of this, we can calculate the spending multiplier. Our spending multiplier is going to be 1 divided by the MPS. We're going to be getting rid of our savings. 1 divided by the marginal propensity to save, will give us our spending multiplier. So earlier we were talking about how one person's spending turns into another person's spending, turns into another person's spending, and we have like a multiplier effect through the economy. Well, if we don't want to walk through every single step, we can just calculate our spending multiplier and figure out how much the economy, how much the GDP is going to increase by or decrease by when we start spending or stop spending money. So here's how spending is multiplied. Assume the MPC is 0.5 for everybody. That means out of every dollar that people earn, they're spending 50 cents and they are saving 50 cents. Assume the Super Bowl comes to town and there's an increase of $100 in Ashley's restaurant. She now has $100 extra that she didn't used to have because people came in and bought stuff and paid. Ashley now has $100 more income. She's going to save $50 and spend $50. So she spent $50 at Carl's salon. Carl now has $50 more income. He's going to save $25 and spend $25 at Dan's fruit stand. Dan now has $25 more income, and this is going to keep going until every penny is either spent or saved. So if we look here, we had an initial increase of $100 in this GDP when Ashley was paid $100, and that's what she received in an increase in income. She got $100. She spent $50, so that's a $150 increase to real GDP. Carl spent $25. That's a $175 increase to real GDP, and it keeps going. If we want to figure out how much that initial change in spending increased in the economy, you can take the total change in GDP, or you can get the total change in GDP by taking the money multiplier times the initial change in spending. So earlier we said the money multiplier is 1 over the MPS. Here, our marginal propensity to consume is 0.5. That means our marginal propensity to save is 0.5. Together, the MPC and the MPS have to equal 1. So 1 over 0.5. Half goes into 1 2 times, so our multiplier is 2. Now that we've had this $100 increase in real GDP, we can multiply that by 2 and see the maximum, the total amount that the GDP can increase by is going to be $200. All right, tax multiplier. Changing taxes has a smaller effect than government spending. If you decrease taxes, people will spend a portion and save a portion of their taxes. It's smaller because there isn't that initial spending done by the government, if that makes sense. Our tax multiplier is going to be MPC divided by MPS. And remember, an increase in taxes will cause the GDP to decrease, and a decrease in taxes causes the GDP to increase. All right, students, now we're going to do some practice using the tax multiplier and the spending multiplier by using our marginal propensity to consume. What we have right here, we're in the midst of a recession in this economy. So now that we're in the middle of a recession in this economy, we need to check out how big our output gap actually is. So this is an economy that when it's at full employment output, its potential real GDP could be $100. Currently, our current output is to the left of that. We are in a recession, so our current output is actually $80. So we are producing $80 worth of GDP each year, or this year. We should be able to produce $100 of GDP, and so our output gap is equal to $20. We need to figure out a way to get this economy to increase GDP by $20. So first thing we need to think about, you don't want to just raise government spending by $20 or cut taxes by $20 because there is a multiplier effect that we talked about earlier when the government either spends money or taxes. First, we got to figure out what our marginal propensity to consume is. This problem already gave us our MPC. It's 0.5. And remember that means out of every dollar that a person earns in this economy, each next dollar they earn, they're going to spend about 50 cents. Well, if they're going to spend 50 cents of every dollar they earn, then that obviously means that their marginal propensity to save is going to be 50 cents, 0.5. If they're spending 50 cents of every dollar they earn, then they have to be saving the other 50 cents. You're either spending it or saving it. There's not much else you can do with it. Okay, so right now, spending 50 cents out of every dollar, saving out of $50. We got to get our tax multiplier first, and then we'll get our spending multiplier. The tax multiplier, the formula is MPC over MPS. And right now, that would be 0.5 over 0.5. And that comes out to 1. So our tax multiplier is 1. So if we wanted to change this output gap and get people to spend $20, we would need to cut taxes by $20 because our multiplier is 1. That's all it is right now. So if we cut taxes by $20, aggregate demand will increase by $20 because consumers will spend up to $20 overall in the economy based on that. And we'll have an increase of aggregate demand and get back to full employment. Now, our spending multiplier, that's a little bit different. Spending has a greater effect on GDP. So this one is going to be 1 over the MPS. We're essentially getting rid of the marginal propensity to save. We only care about the spending that people are doing. So it's 1 divided by 0.5, and that's going to come out to 2. The spending multiplier is always going to be one whole number greater than the tax multiplier. And that's because if you cut people's taxes, each person is going to spend some of that tax cut and save part of that tax cut. If the government spends money, you're going to have an initial increase in real GDP, and then it's going to have a multiplier effect because everybody that the government paid to do a job or bought something from now has an increase in their income as well, and they're going to spend some and save some. So because of that, spending multiplier is always going to have a greater effect. So our spending multiplier right now is 2. So if we wanted to close this output gap, then we would need to increase spending by $10 because $10 times 2 will equal this $20 that we need to fill in for this output gap. So if we increase government spending by $10, $20 worth of GDP increase is what we're going to get. If we cut taxes by $20, because our multiplier is only 1, we will also get a $20 increase in real GDP. So it kind of just depends on what you want to do. If you want to do it as cheaply as possible, I would government spend. If you want to cut people's taxes and make them feel better about the economy or better about you and maybe vote for you back in, then you could cut the taxes. Either one's going to work out.